Greetings to you, our viewers, and good morning wherever you're watching us from. My name is Chemonges Timothy, and I want to welcome you to this edition of Focus on Parliament, where we look into the activities, the unfolding events at Parliament. I want to thank you for always tuning in and being part of these sessions. We are now in the festive season, a season for loving and extending love and sharing. We want to thank you specifically, even as we come towards the end of the year, for having been part of our shows and for the last 5 years when we have existed. Today it's a special edition when we want to look at the performance, really the opposition. We want to look at their performance. We want to look at the dynamics under which they are working in, but also the forthcoming activities in 2023. Joining me today for this discussion is a panel of very distinguished panelists that will be helping us to delve into this discussion, but also unpack the same. I shall allow them to introduce themselves respectively, starting with the Honourable here.
Thank you so much. Good morning, viewers. My name is Angelina Osege. I'm glad to be here to share this with you, and I'm hoping that it's going to be a fruitful discussion. There's a lot happening in our country, and when you talk about one of the arms of government, it even becomes more interesting. But that is part of what we have to deal with in the country. That is us, actually, that is who we are as a country, because that is where our representatives sit. So it would be nice to say something about what is going on and assess whether it is good or it is bad, and how can we move on going forward to see that they don't shame us, because if anything goes wrong in that house, we are the ones to carry the shame. So I am only hoping that we will have a fruitful discussion and it will benefit the viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honourable, and you're most welcome. But also I must mention that the name Honourable Angelina Osege is affiliated with accountability, with transparency and promoting value for money. Honourable, you're most welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Apollo.
Well, good morning, our viewers. I'm also privileged to be here, Timothy. My name is Tusiime Apollo. I am the Secretary General for Uganda Parliamentary Press Association. This is a group of journalists, reporters who cover Parliament on daily basis. As I usually put it, we are not employees of Parliament, but we do report from Parliament. I'm privileged and happy to be here today.
Thank you, Apollo, and just to appreciate both of you, for it's not your first time on this show. You've been here a number of times, and we want to thank you specifically for always offering your time to be part of this show. Yeah, so today we want to look at the performance generally of the opposition, but also probably highlight on their roles if in a setting of our democracy. And probably I'll start with you, Honourable. What would be the role of the opposition in a setting like ours?
Well, thank you so much once again, Timothy. Essentially, and I mean, what would expect is only in the books, but in a normal democracy, what is expected of an opposition group of people in a country like Uganda is to advise. You know, when we use the word opposition, it sometimes is taken as negative. So when you say they critique, they advise government, it sounds more friendly, it sounds more constructive. So, but in a democracy like ours, opposition is supposed to help government point out the ills that make service delivery not effective and not efficient. And so the contribution of opposition is supposed to open the eye of government and say, okay, you are doing this, that's okay, but there's a problem here. And so government in their response should be able to correct and heed what opposition is saying. But like I said, that is only in the books. My experience is that opposition in this country is treated as an enemy of government. There is nothing that comes from opposition that is taken as a good contribution for the betterment of this country. And even if it is found to be good, they don't acknowledge, it is not attributed to opposition and saying, you see, you say this idea and it is good. You know, like when you're writing books, you have to acknowledge the original author of whatever book you're quoting. So, but the role of opposition is supposed to be critiquing government, correcting government, holding government accountable, making sure that what government says it does. That is why accountability committees of parliament are headed by opposition. Those are committees that see that the budget is efficiently and effectively implemented. And you know that the money that comes out of government coffers is utilized in the way that it ought to be. But that said, how effective is opposition? I say that the listening is not very adequate. Because if what opposition was saying would be listened to, apart from the politics, it would have helped this country much, much better. Personally, when I was in Parliament and I had the opportunity to be a vice chairperson of COSASE, Committee on Commissions and Statutory Authorities and Enterprises. And then in my last term, I also headed Public Accounts Committee. You know, these are very important committees which open the eye of government. Who is not faithful in the office that they've been appointed to? Who has misused the budget? Who is not running the programs of government the way they ought to be run? And you'd be amazed to learn, I know you know, that we would make reports and they would take even a year on the shelf without being presented. I left that parliament with so many reports in my office which we had worked on, and they didn't see the light of day on the floor of the house. But I would have thought that a serious government would have desired to see that work more than anything else, so that they are effective. Because when government delivers service, they are the ones who take the praise. So, but what happens is the contrary. Yeah.
So, Honourable, probably in terms of, and I think that some of your reports during the 10th Parliament suffered the effect of the motion which was moved by Honourable Nandala then, to be treated as though they were considered. There was a motion towards the end of the 10th Parliament, which saw most of the reports that were pending, actually they were treated as though they were considered.
They were just adopted.
They were adopted, and so there was not much. But also then giving it a context of today, the opposition in this year, and both part of the first session and the current session which we are in, they have done quite a number of work, and looking at what they have done, they have had 17 statements presented. Those are the alternative statements presented. They have had 3 bills which private members bill presented. They have had up to 35 matters of national importance raised, 25 policy statements, and it goes on and on and on in terms of the work that they have done. In terms of your assessment, the opposition in the current 11th Parliament, what's your assessment of the same?
Well, they have done something. They still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
This is only the second year of their term of office. And I think they have done well given the circumstances under which they operate. Now, you have talked of bills, private members' bills. I don't know if they have been passed. I don't know if they have been assented to. Because what normally happens is that when a private member's bill comes from the opposition, government will own it because they don't want it to sound like opposition has done anything serious. But to me, I would not mind about that, because if it satisfies the gap that there is, that opposition has identified, that would be okay, because it would do Uganda well.
Yeah.
I think I did not get to know the full calendar, their legislative calendar, because I'm sure Honourable Mpuga put forward a legislative calendar for opposition.
That's right.
For this, for the year or for the term of Parliament.
It was for the
for
term.
the whole term of Parliament. I didn't get to know the details of that, but if you looked at their legislative agenda, I think they have done something, in spite of the fact that, of course, we would expect more, because there are some things that now are not done, like making a rebuttal on the budget. I don't know if they still do it now.
Yeah, they do.
They do it?
Yes, they provide the alternative. Yeah.
Alternative. Those are the specific shadow ministers.
Yes.
But the statement from the lead of the lead of opposition, I don't know if it was because Kadaga had kind of put that down
Yeah.
at some point. So, but I'll appreciate what they've done so
Yeah.
far. I think, given the circumstances, it's okay, because sometimes I watch those guys and you stand until you get disgusted and walk away. So for you to still have the strength, the motivation to know that you have to be in the house and make a contribution when many times you are ignored, it's something to appreciate.
Oh.
I think with what they have done, it's not too bad. It's not too bad.
Thank you, Honourable. And Apollo, you're a journalist and a very critical one at that. You cover Parliament, and that you've done for over the years. What would be your assessment of the current opposition in terms of the way they do their work, probably comparatively with what the others have been?
Yes, Timo, it's not easy to compare the two sets of opposition from one parliament to another. But I want to start from where Honourable started from. She said in Uganda, the opposition is treated as indeed an enemy, which is very true. It is true. Not we, but the opposition are treated well, like not people or a group of leaders who can advise, because majorly their mandate is to keep the government in power in check. That's basically their mandate. But I would also want to add that within themselves also, the opposition themselves, there are some who also think that being in opposition, you must oppose. That one also is there. That's what I wanted to bring out. As we tell government to appreciate the mandate of the opposition, to provide an alternative policy or policies, then we also have to appeal to them also not to always oppose or to seem like they are opposing anything that comes either at the floor of parliament or elsewhere. But looking at the opposition today, you cannot detach them from the political environment in the country and elsewhere. The Honourable talked about the circumstances and the environment within they operate. The environment is different with politics that has been commercialized, with politics that has been radicalized. You cannot blame only one side, because the environment they are operating in, and they are also part of us. The opposition, the members of opposition are also part of us, only that possibly they belong to a certain political party which is not in power, and it makes them the opposition. But they are part of this society we live in. So whatever we say about them or we accuse them of, it is partly what we live with. And I will agree with Honourable that the opposition in Parliament today have done a great job. You've talked about the statements they've made, the motion, the bills. You've talked about 3 bills they have tabled. And this time round, I don't want to say that this opposition we have today is much more different from the other opposition we have had, but at least you see something unique about them. Under the leadership of Honourable Mathias Impuga, they started off with with a steam, and like she talked about the legislative agenda. They launched their legislative agenda, and it highlights those key areas they will have to look at and concentrate on. The electoral the electoral roles, the composition of the electoral commission, looking at the powers of the incumbent during elections. These are the issues possibly we think if they, like she said, they still have time. They still have time if they can bring this business and work on it. And this is exactly what where we could start judging them if they have that's where we can start comparing them with other opposition who have been in parliament.
Thank you, Apollo. And Honourable, Apollo mentions the aspect of environment in which the current opposition are operating in. How does that affect their output and how probably they conduct themselves?
You know, it takes guts and real commitment, probably I would say, to this country or to the citizenry of this nation to be in opposition in Uganda. It is much easier to be in the ruling party. Why? Because you can do all the wrong things and get away with it. You can tell lies or not do anything at all and you are still okay. In the environment they're operating in, they need to raise the bar. And the public that is watching them also doesn't understand very well the limitations that opposition is faced with. It does not understand their role properly and the resources that are exposed to them to do what they ought to do. Being in opposition in this country, if you are not strong-headed, you easily fizzle out. You get intimidated. You are not going to be able to say things the way they are because there are threats left, right, and center. Either you are told you are going to miss out on some goodies, or you are told you'll face some problems or you'll be attacked in one way, and your family as well is not secure if you are going to be a vocal opposition in this country. I remember when we did, the first time we launched that, the Citizens Compact. We went around Uganda as a country soliciting for views from Ugandans, and we wanted some constitutional amendments, especially concerning elections. Then I hosted the team, the national team, at my house in Soroti. But you know, police came and threw tear gas at us. Just because I had these people there, the Otunus, the Muntu, the Besiges, and we're going to have lunch. And the next thing I saw was a group of police officers with the 9/9s and tear gas thrown into the compound. And I'm like, what is going on? And you know, that kind of thing, it was basically a peaceful activity. We even had authority at that time. The POMA law was in action. It had not been thrown out by court. So we fulfilled all the conditions and went around this country. So just this one day, I saw police and so that kind of thing, it has kept some people away. You know, being in opposition is about conviction. It's about what you believe in. It's not just that you want to say no to what the sitting government is saying or is doing. But you know, it's important to have a second eye on anything, whether it is in the family or it is in your private work, in office or something. There is always somebody you can ask, was this decision right? Was this action good? Did it help us? And I would think that would be the role of opposition. That is how opposition should be looked at. But instead, they are working in a very harsh environment where they are likely to miss out on the good things that happen in government. When things are being done for colleagues at the same level, say like in parliament, I will talk about our experience. Money would always come. Money is thrown around. And for us as opposition, when we would see that is wrong money, we would say no. Either we take it back, we expose it and say we are not part of this money. But if you are not strong-hearted, everybody loves money. Everybody has a problem. So you would want that money. And it is not small money. So for you to take back that good money, and your children need school fees wherever they are,
Or your
you also, your constituency is demanding just the same way. It takes a strong-hearted Ugandan. It takes commitment to say you deny yourself for the sake of this country. Yes, it doesn't help much for you to say, I'm not taking it, because anyhow, it will still go to the wrong hands and it will not reach the people that you think should benefit from it. But the fact that you have expressed it and say that this is not how things should be done, it takes guts.
Yeah.
So it scares away many people. You realize in that parliament, people may have gone to parliament in opposition with an opposition ticket, but they may never have said anything 2 years down the road. Why? Some of them are being not taunted, but they hear things in the corridors. Oh, there is this good thing. There is the other good thing. If you talk, you are not going to benefit. You see, they are working out this in your constituency. If you talk, you are not going to benefit. So you become a captive. You become a captive of the desires of your heart that you are not ready to sacrifice. So anybody who stands in opposition and is able to speak out and is able to do what they ought to do, what they believe in, really we should thumbs up for them, because the environment is totally not friendly. And you know that when you say anything, and now the laws that are being passed, even their freedom is curtailed the more. There is no more freedom even on the floor of the house. And yet, according to the law, whatever you say on the floor, there is immunity. But that immunity is not there anymore. It has been eroded. You'll find somebody has spoken something and they are being warned outside of parliament to say you are the one, or something will happen to them outside of parliament. So people who have followed through, they came through in opposition, they are speaking out, they are doing what they're supposed to do. We thank God for them. But many of them have been silenced. If you do your assessment, out of the, I don't know, they're about 60, 80 something, they're about 70 something.
Yeah.
The ones that always speak are less than 50.
Yeah. So Apollo, Honourable mentions quite a number of critical issues, and there have been also concerns that there is a lot of compromise, either at the leadership level of Parliament or whatever leadership within the institution. The opposition have been compromised, not all of them, a section of them, and that affects their output, that affects their ability to critically look into issues. What's your say on the same?
Yes, much as I didn't want to compare the opposition of those days, Timo, I want to salute Honourable Osege and others who possibly came before. I have fears that the resolve she talked about is dwindling in the opposition. That resolve to withstand the pressures, to forego their needs and survive the temptations is really dwindling. I'll give you an example, Honourable and Timo. A very recent one, in August this year, there were allegations that members of parliament received 40 million shillings each. One opposition member representing Bukoto South, Dr. Twaha Kagabo, testified that he indeed received 40 million shillings. And he went on to even address the media with the money, the cash. But what happened later? He was arrested. He was sent to the IGG, subject to the IGG probe by the office of the IGG, and later he was forced, because he said it, to apologize on the floor of Parliament for the money. He cannot even today, tell where it came from, because his allegations were that he picked the money from the residence of the top administrator of Parliament. That's one thing you can really think about. What happened? And you wonder how an MP can wake up one day and say, this is the money, I received it, and now he's on the floor of Parliament apologizing to the House for causing commotion.
A change, 360 change.
Yes. So I'm saying, and I can agree with Honourable, that time, in those parliaments, the 7th, the 8th, the 10th, and what, the members of opposition would actually not be tempted to take bribes, would not be tempted, much as they really needed money, like everyone needs money, but they would actually have that resolve to say, no, this is evil money. But like I said, I have a feeling it is degenerating. That resolve is dwindling every day, and possibly in the future, if God forbid, we will have a parliament where everything that comes is agreed on by both sides. So you now ask yourself, at that point, where will be parliament? Because like she said, and I said in the beginning, parliament, the opposition has to check the excesses of the ruling government, because the other people who are in government, they may be comfortable, they may want to do what they think possibly they would want to satisfy themselves because they are in power. But it is the role of the opposition to say, no, this one is wrong. So, Timothy, I have to allay my fears that indeed, well, they are doing well. Like she said, there are pressures, and the circumstances, the environment they're operating in could be harsh indeed. Honourable Joy Senyon, the Honourable talked about the reports of committees. A few weeks or months ago, he was saying the committee he chairs, COSASE, they concluded the work, they have a report, but it has not been given time on what? On the order paper. And now you know what the committee was probing. It was probing Civil Aviation Authority. It was probing. Is it Uganda Railways also?
Yeah, that.
Yes.
But also, Apollo, on that specific report for COSASE, there was a directive by the Speaker, because the report is allegedly it's alleged to have been leaked before it was expected to be released, and so the Speaker directed the Leader of Opposition, whom the committee, the COSASE committee, is domiciled in his office, to investigate under what circumstances did the report leak. And probably I'm just highlighting one.
Yes. So I was saying there is a lot happening. There's a lot happening. The environment is very harsh. They may also they may do a good job, but again their efforts may be curtailed. Like the Honourable said, the reports can be compiled, but not given the due attention. But what I'm saying, the opposition must stand their feet. They must have that uniqueness. They must have their value, a set of values and beliefs that they cannot negate in any way. because, like I said, the ruling government may want to do what they do, but you are the opposition, you are the people we expect, the group of leaders we expect to check the government that is in power. So as well we can appreciate their efforts and their work, the job they are doing, but there is a lot they need to do. They need to stand their ground and resist the temptations, because now actually the temptations are many more than that time when Honourable Osege and others were sitting on those committees.
That's
Yes,
that's
the
an
pressures
assumption.
are very high. It's an assumption, it could be an assumption. But from what I see, in my opinion, the temptations are actually, and the pressures are very much high. And looks like the opposition is giving in.
So, Honourable, probably, and Apollo probably highlights quite a number of things which you may want to respond to or comment on. And Apollo had mentioned the fact that there seems to be opposition within opposition. That the opposition seems to be also having it's disaggregated. And within that context where you have the opposition having a lot of pull factors, pulling them away from their main objective. How is opposition supposed to go about this?
You know, when you're working in a harsh environment, the worst thing you can do to yourself is having your team divided. Because the person who is opposing you, for lack of a better word, your enemy, would want to divide you. By dividing you, they would have divided your strength. They would have reduced your effectiveness, your efficacy in everything that you'd want to do. And I know that that is one of the tactics that the sitting government uses. They make part of your troops disloyal by giving them some goodies or making them enjoy certain privileges, and so when they feel like if they did what you want them to do, what they ought to do, they would miss out. You know, human beings are naturally I don't know, selfish. If somebody has an opportunity to benefit something as an individual, the idea of the larger community becomes secondary. And so government is good at exploiting that. They know the psychology of human beings. They know that if someone is given something good, they can forego anything else. They can surrender their responsibility. They can abrogate anything, whether it is the laws or it is the rules or it is any responsibility. So what opposition would do, they would do good to shut their ears to anything that works against them. Even if it is true that they should be able to work it out and say, okay, this is our focus. This is the direction we are taking. Weapons are coming against us from all directions, but let that be secondary. You can sort out those things, but do not remove your focus from the goal. As long as they allow themselves to be distracted from their goal, then they will not achieve. When you talk about divisions within the opposition, I know that there are different parties, first of all, and each political party is looking at itself as being a potential government after the sitting government. And so there are many things, there are many differences that they have, but they have one focus. They have one objective: to replace the incumbent. And they would do well to work together towards that. In their backyards, they could work to strengthen their individual political parties. But at the forefront, they would front issues and strategies and actions that can help them get out their common obstacle. That would help them. That would mean they should desist from anything that will distract them. Whether it is maybe money that is dished out unto them or favors of any kind. I know in Parliament people love to travel. So you'll find someone saying, this whole year I've not traveled. And if you are told you will be given a trip to go somewhere, if only you didn't do this, you will see people disappearing from meetings, not contributing to a situation on the floor. Why? Because there is a carrot somewhere.
Yeah.
And that appeals to the selfishness of the human being. So the divisions come because, first of all, they comprise of different political parties who have different agenda, much as their common objective is to replace the incumbent as the sitting government. The way they want to get there might differ. But in parliament, they should be able to come together. Because the beauty about it is that they will draw strength from each group and say, this is coming from DP. This idea is coming from FDC. This one has strength from NOP. The other one in CPD. Then you put those things together and use that as your battle weapon. They will do very well to do that. I know there is a lot that is against them, but they need to shut their ears, shut their eyes, and be focused on the goal. There they will achieve.
So probably, Honourable, could it be that what's happening at the opposition at the parliament level is a reflection of what's happening at a national level? That the failure and the inability of the opposition parties to come together is still appearing, is still reflecting in parliament?
Yeah, it may be, but I think they have the capacity to overcome that. It just takes the understanding that, we have an enemy. These are the tactics of the enemy. This is what they would desire. You deny the enemy what they would desire to see. But it takes individuals. That's why I just have to bring this example. Right now, the party I subscribe to, that is Alliance for National Transformation. We believe in values. And you say, once you raise a critical mass of people who are value-driven, who promote the good of the rest before them, they say country before self. Unless we get Ugandans who are looking at Uganda first before themselves, it will be difficult even for the opposition to achieve what they want to achieve. It takes sacrifice. It takes commitment. It takes knowing that you are there for the sake of another person who couldn't be there, but you are there on their behalf. Not you as being an end to yourself and a beneficiary, a sole beneficiary of anything that is good. So it's a difficult thing, but it is possible, it is doable. Even if opposition out there was not, when we did Tojikwatako, yes. I remember then we subscribed to the Forum for Democratic Change. And there was kind of disagreement on what Parliament intended to do. But we said, this is a different front. Our party and the figure that was known for that kind of civic disobedience was not amused at what we're doing as Parliament. But we said there are many things working for our good as members of Parliament. If we carried forward this thing, we can easily make it succeed. One, because there is acknowledgement by the nation. These are their leaders. There is a certain level of protection that we have. There is a certain level of power that you can wield as a member of Parliament to make sure that you do certain things. Although Poma came and said you cannot be in another constituency, which was really very silly. Because you are a member of Parliament from Kasese, you cannot go to Soroti to do anything. I mean, that was just stupid. But we saw an advantage. So in a situation like that, we said, no, we are going to override whatever it is, whether it is selfishness or it is something somebody feels overshadowed. We are going to do this for the sake of this country. And we had to defy one of our leaders' positions and said, no, this is good. It is an opportunity for us. We can do it as a team. And so even if, Parliament has a certain authority and power that cannot be curtailed even by the political parties. If they know what they want to do. and they decide to do it and they are determined, they will achieve a lot. As long as it is for the good of the country. You know, sometimes someone can oppose something because they are not looking ahead. But when you do something and you pull it off and the results show and everybody appreciates, they too will appreciate. But that is the whole essence of being a leader. You don't have to be led. When you're a leader, you lead. You show people what to do. You give your reasons as to why certain things must happen the way they ought to happen. So in spite of the divisions, the disagreements that may be out there, Parliament provides a different opportunity. It provides a different opportunity where opposition can shine if they are focused.
Yeah.
Perhaps, Timo, I want also to make an observation on the division that is in the opposition ranks. I can state that the opposition today is much more divided than ever. You could, in yesteryears, you could look at FDC either working at good working terms with the DP or with any other part of FDC or what. But this time around, you see glaring divisions everywhere, and these divisions have been instigated by the ruling party. I mean, the leadership of the ruling party. You remember how His Excellency the President made a vow that come 2021, the opposition will be divided. Will be actually be normal. Yeah, so I think that's not something that we can hide. We know that there's an effort to divide the opposition, but again it goes back to the opposition. Are they willing to sell their souls? And again, it goes to what she alluded to, the values and beliefs. Do the members of the opposition, from wherever they belong, really subscribe to a set of values or beliefs that can facilitate them defy the negative effort that is meant to divide them? The answer is no. Possibly, I can agree with Honourable that the Alliance for National Transformation, at its inception, and from its inception, has demonstrated that they have a set of values they believe in and they subscribe to. But then I would also say that possibly we have also to give them time and see how possibly they will practice what they are preaching. Because even the people who are in power today, during the days when they were still contesting for power in the bush, they issued the 10-point program. The 10-point program, you would look at it on papers, the best, talking about corruption. I think it was number 7, talking about a self-sustaining economy. Today, if you ask them, they will testify that indeed corruption, they have lost the battle against corruption. They can testify that this economy we have today can never be sustainable because we are running to donors for even the most crucial sectors of the economy, like education and health. So I'm saying until possibly the opposition and with the help, possibly we can help them bring out, we nurture political parties which are built on a set of values, and the members themselves have that conviction not to run away from those values. Then that's when we can possibly have or do away with what we see today. They agree on one thing. Outside Parliament, they can agree on one thing, but when they possibly you give them a week, then they come speaking in tongues. And Honourable, you can agree with me. There are some crucial matters that have been on the floor of Parliament, and you think that this matter actually will unite what? Will unite both the opposition and what? But eventually, you see, I mean, when time comes, they are nowhere. Some will be on trips outside abroad. They are not there when we really need them, when Ugandans really need them. So we have been betrayed, not by only the opposition, like I said. It takes us the whole. It takes the whole of us. Our political environment has changed completely. It has been commercialized. And the important matter she talked about is individualism. People are looking at how they can survive themselves. They are not, the leaders no longer look at what actually helps many, helps communities. They only look, they are inward looking. They are looking at what can help them as individuals. And it is really, really dangerous.
Thank you, Apollo, and thank you for those observations. I want us to take a short break, and then after we'll come in to look into. We have two MPs who are still in prison. We have the opposition have been very strong in raising matters to do with abuse of human rights and all those kind of things, and we look also on the way forward regarding the context of opposition in a democratic setting. To you, our viewers, thank you so much for keeping with us, and we do appreciate for your time and for always keeping with us. We are taking a short break, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Thank you so much for keeping with us in this edition of Focus on Parliament, and we continue to put a spotlight on the opposition, their role, their context, and really the role they play in ensuring that we have a workable and a practical democracy. And before we went into a break, Honourable, we were looking into the challenges that the opposition is facing. And as ANT, that's the Alliance of National Transformation, you champion values, you champion a citizenry that cherishes specific values. And there are concerns that
country before self.
Country before self.
Yeah.
But there are concerns that there are intervening factors that sometimes compromises that stand. As ANT, I don't know how you are thinking and planning to ensure that even as you currently are on opposition, to champion the same and ensure that it's a workable theory, it's a workable stand.
When you know what you want and you believe in it, what's important is to believe what you believe, and you are focused on it, and you do everything to achieve what you believe. It is possible. I know there are fears that even those in power right now came with very flowery statements, programs, and so on, fundamental change. But where we are 36 years down the road, we have gone back to square one. You know, you have to understand the psychology of a human being. There are certain levels that a human being, that's why we have laws. That is why in the Constitution we had put term limits. That is why we had put age limit. We had put certain clauses that would help control the nature of a human being. And so there is no human being that can say that, for me, this is impossible. First of all, God has given you the ability to choose and to be what you really want to be. Now, as ANT, we believe in godliness, first of all, and I think it is the only political organization in this country that talks about godliness.
Yes.
And godliness is not just about being a Christian, a Catholic, an Anglican, or Pentecostal, because everybody who talks about godliness means there is a being that they revere, that they ascribe greatness to, somebody, a being that they think is above all. And when your focus is on God, wherever you talk about God from, you know that this God everywhere is known as someone who watches over you. And for us who subscribe to the Bible says that whatever you do, do it as you are doing to God. Now, if you have that belief, when you are dealing with a Ugandan from deep down in my village, or you are dealing with a minister, you are dealing with a police officer, someone who holds a gun, you are dealing with them knowing that you have to deal with them as a human being, first of all. And if it were God in their position, how would you deal with him? You deal with respect, you deal with love, you deal with compassion. Now, ANT has already exercised what they believe, even after being just only 2 to 3 years in existence. When ANT was set up, General Muntu was the national coordinator.
Yeah.
You know, we have not yet had a delegates conference or a national delegates conference. We are working towards that. And in the constitution, we say, if you are a leader in any structure of the party and you offer yourself to compete in an elective position, in a national position or constituency or whatever, you relinquish that position that you are into. Now, he was the national coordinator. He had to relinquish that position because he offered himself as a presidential candidate. Today, as we speak, General Muntu is part of the management of Alliance for National Transformation, but he's not at the helm. It is Honourable Alaso, who is now the national coordinator. And wherever we had people who were leaders in the structures that were set up, not the complete structures, they had to relinquish their positions. And now there are other people. So when you live by example and you give it time, you don't allow it to get to your head. There is something that General Muntu normally says, that when they came from the bush, and one of the things they fought against so much in NRM was the sense of entitlement. Many people who are there think, especially those from the bush, said, we fought, so we must first benefit. Now, when you think that, and that is how selfishness grows, you think that because you did that, you must be the one to benefit. And yet they had come with good intentions, but that began to override them. Why? Because it began from the head. When the head began to compromise himself and not rebuke the people who were advancing those kinds of selfish intentions and motives, then it swallowed all of them at a certain point. So practice and accountability. Everybody in an organization should be able to take criticism. You cannot be in isolation because you are the leader. What we do in Alliance for National Transformation, we critique one another. There is nobody who is above criticism. You can sit down the national coordinator and say this and that, in my opinion, is wrong. I think we need to do A, B, C, D. And then they'll ask the question, who thinks we should do it A, B, C? How can we do it that way? If there are people who think it is good, then we test it. We say, okay, let's try it. If it works, then we adopt it. That is what it is. But it's difficult. It is against human nature. But there has to be another power that drives you. And that is why we say godliness. Yeah. The fear of God makes you position everybody as important in your eyes. You see every human being as important, as deserving. What you deserve, they too deserve. And that is what should drive us. And that is not to say that ANT is for only people who believe in certain things. Others can be trained. Most Ugandans have lost it because they have nobody to look up to. They are looking up to somebody, but before they can gain their confidence, the person has switched position. So consistency is very, very important. If that is built and many are trained up into it, many are, what do you call it, brought up and I would call
Nurturing.
nurtured, mentored into
Yeah,
it. Once it gets into somebody's system, it becomes easy.
Yeah.
When it becomes part of you, you do it even without questioning. You do it without asking. It's like you are going to eat food, you know that you must wash your hands.
Yeah.
Nobody has to tell you to wash hands. You know that you have to wash if you are going to stay healthy. So keeping talking about it, walking the talk, living by example, and being accountable. Nobody, and that is why it is very dangerous. This is where we began to get problems in Uganda, when some people became untouchable. Now we are talking of 2026. I hear already NRM is saying our sole candidate is the one who has always been until God decides otherwise. Now, nobody can even rise up and say, I want to challenge on these grounds. So when you make somebody feel like they are next to God, a human being will definitely begin developing some thoughts in them and say, nobody can touch me, nobody is like me, nobody can compare to me, nobody can challenge me. And that will bring out the negative part of a human being. So being able to follow through and not propping a human being as opposed to propping an organization. Let it be about a system. Let it be about a team, not individuals. That is why we don't talk about names in ANT. We talk about the organization.
Thank you, Honourable. And even as you were speaking, what quickly came to my mind is the verse in the Bible which says, the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. Apollo, there have been concerns, and the opposition has championed, and also they have been largely affected with the aspect of human rights, the abuse, and in the manner in which the arrests and the arbitrary treatment of people in a manner that is totally in disregard of the of the law. And also there has been this push to have the Human Rights Committee to be under the opposition as one of the arms under the opposition side. I don't know, within the setting of the opposition, how best can they push for this, and what's your say on probably this whole conversation of human rights?
Yes, the issue around human rights is a very pertinent issue. We ourselves as journalists have suffered the brunt of the human rights violators, and I think it's something we can keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because human rights are human rights. They are derogable. No one should claim a right over my right. But you see, it takes me back to what I said in the beginning. A lot has changed in the politics, in the economics, in the lifestyles of people, in the beliefs. The belief system has changed, and Honourable here was talking about how they will preach about values and get as many more people coming to their side. But I find it an uphill task, because our society has changed. Like we said, people are are selfish. People are looking at themselves alone, and that is what actually is bringing up about what you're talking about, the issue of human rights today. People want to be in some positions for forever. people do not want they do not, they just want to treat others, I mean, to torture others, and, I mean, to keep themselves happy.
Intimidate.
Yes.
Shut you up.
Yes. So, like you said, the opposition, I think I agree that it is time, possibly, if they could be allowed to chair the Human Rights Committee, because where we are now, I think the proposition at first was that possibly human rights violations are cut across. But now we have seen a trend where, like where Honourable started, the opposition are looked at as enemies. So, and they are, we can agree, they are the majority of the members of opposition are the ones who have suffered the brunt of these violations. So I think it is right. It's ripe. We have the opposition chair the Human Rights Committee. Chairing the committee may not be enough, but at least if you have somebody chairing the committee, the chair has some influence, at least have some influence. Though even like we agreed, committees make reports and reports are ignored. The Human Rights Committee made reports. I told you how we went with members of parliament to check on safe houses, and we are not allowed to do what? Even to access those premises. They came, they made a report, but what happened? Even the attempts to censure the minister fell flat. So I agree with you that possibly the proposal to have the opposition chair the Human Rights Committee of Parliament could be a positive. It could be a positive move in the right direction.
Wow, thank you, Apollo. And so, Honourable, maybe Honourable Zakian, just maybe not to be just specific on individuals. There is concern that there is degeneration in terms of conduct, in terms of how members conduct themselves within the precincts of Parliament. And Honourable Zake is currently before the Committee on Disciplinary for having breached the procedures within the House. He brought a substantive matter on human rights. As a procedural matter, yet it shouldn't have been, but also that was followed by a bit of back and forth that wasn't very nice. The concern, especially now for the opposition, is it that there have been concerns that the current approach that the current opposition is taking to be very, very no, they are not confrontational as some of the previous ones have been. They choose to dialogue. And so the thinking is that maybe the change of approach may prompt action. And Honourable, maybe with your experience, how best can the opposition achieve the results within Parliament, both in terms of contact, in terms of dialogue, and all these other approaches?
Timothy,
Kojukwatako versus dialogue.
You know, it would all not be that seemingly difficult if there was a listening ear.
Yeah.
Because what opposition does or is supposed to do is for the good of this country. And if somebody who receives the contribution from opposition, whether in terms of statement in the House, whether in terms of alternative policy, or in terms of just the legislations that go on, if they were taken with a positive attitude, it would make things different. But you know, with hindsight, I know that they are all attempts to make opposition look irrelevant. And where there is an attempt to make you look irrelevant, you'll try to find any opportunity to make yourself relevant.
Yeah.
Because once you become irrelevant, and this country does not yet understand the approach of dialogue. That is why you hear the things that they're saying you have been compromised. And yes, there are compromises, but sometimes it is also because of the approach.
Yeah.
When the Honourable Latigo was leader of opposition, he largely employed dialogue. But Ugandans did not appreciate it because there were things that would not come out. And you know, the regime also takes advantage of that. They don't appreciate your goodwill. Like not exposing them. They will take advantage of it and make it seem like a weakness on your part. And so that is why sometimes opposition seems very, very radical. But if it was an environment where you go and dialogue, and it comes out that we have agreed with opposition that this is how this is going to be run. Look at what happens in Kenya. They are not ashamed to ask for the thoughts from opposition.
Yeah.
And they put it on the table and say, this is what has come from opposition and we think it is a good idea. We are going to implement it. But in Uganda, it is yet to happen. So sometimes I think opposition is forced into certain kind of actions. Why? Because whatever they do is not appreciated. You know, I come from a background of management, corporate management. And you know, you notice that when you appreciate even small things people do, you motivate them even to do better. But when you try to suppress them, when you try to underlook or undercut, a human being is like water. A human being cannot allow to be put down, especially when they still have the energy, they have the ambition, they think they can do something. They will find a way out. However way. Whether it is ugly, whether it is whatever it is, they will find a way to express themselves. And I think that is where we are at now. It would be mature. It would seem like mature politics to dialogue. Yeah. But come out and show it that we have dialogued and agreed on this as government and opposition, and let it benefit the public. But when you dialogue and then it is brought out like a weakness, like you had no position to stand on, you had no objective of your own, it challenges you. So you want to show forth and say that, yes, I can make a stand and I can make sure that I am heard or seen. If I'm not heard, at least I will be seen.
I should be seen.
Yes.
So thank you, Honourable. And to you, Apollo. So yesterday, the leader of opposition had a press, had addressed the press in Parliament, and they're projecting for next year and some of the things that they hope to do on top of what they have done this year. And one of them, which came out very clearly, is to push for constitutional and electoral reforms. They have they raised two issues that there is need for, they bring it early so that the electorate and the public can contribute towards this process. But also they have been concerned of setting up a constitutional review commission, which has not come forth. I would want to pick your insight about this and whether it's an uphill task.
Timothy and Honourable and our viewers, this is not the first time Ugandans are clamoring for electoral reforms. The Honourable talked about the Citizens Compact. I think I covered it. We launched it in Africana Hotel some many years ago. There was that effort to traverse the whole country, compile that document, and it includes everything. And I remember even, was it last year or the other, 2019, Honourable, the Honourable, the Shadow Attorney General then.
Katunto.
Yeah? No. From Kunjiri side, he tabled the bill for electoral reforms.
Yes. Nwagaba.
Nwagaba.
Yes, Nwagaba. But it did not go anywhere. I mean, go further. So I support the idea, and that the opposition should push for electoral reforms because we need them. But the challenge I see is the government in power to accept that we really need them, because that has been the stumbling block for all these years. And it takes me back again to what the Honourable was talking about, the will. Are they willing? Is somebody willing to listen to what the opposition is saying? Or they may look at the opposition as the opposition, as a group of people who are bringing bad on the table for discussion. So I agree. We have to support them. We have to wait. But my fear is that maybe for the God, the Honourable and his group and me myself, can lend a hand, and we see them appreciate the fact that we need reforms, not only actually in electoral laws. There are many reforms. The issue about the Constitutional Review Commission has also been here for almost 10 years. Actually, I think at one point some names were submitted and were listed that this will be the commission.
Yeah.
But what happened later is history. So the will to have this holistic amendment of the Constitution is not there. We decided to amend the Constitution in piecemeals. We pick out what we think favors us as a group, and leave what probably we. I still pray for that time when we can see our members of parliament agree on matters that touch the nerves of the population. Like I said, we have issues that cut across. But when these issues are brought to the table, then you'll see a divided house. I think it goes back to the issue of individual privileges. For instance, Honourable and Timo and our viewers, when can we have a proposal to cut on the size of parliament adopted in that house? Everyone now can agree that the cost of public administration is also has been a huge challenge to us. We can agree that we may not need that parliament of 529 MPs today. We cannot agree. And even when you talk to them, both from the members of the opposition and NRM, they will say, yes, we need a lean parliament because this bloated house is not sustainable. But again, look for people who will present that proposal and support it. You may get somebody to present it, because I think Honourable Naomi Kabashari, I think, is planning to bring such a proposal. But how many will support it? Okay, and that again takes me back to where we started. Really, can there be a time when the opposition and the ruling, the MPs from the ruling government come and say and disagree on an issue that rotates around their privileges, the privileges of an MP? Can they agree that really we may not need this one? I will give an example that may not be relevant now, of the money for a vehicle, an MP. It may not be relevant now because things have changed for some time. But at that point when we were buying MP's vehicle, was it 200 million vehicle, 300 or 400 million around that time? When that proposal comes, the House is united because it is a privilege to an individual. But when um, an issue that cuts across, that touches the population comes, then they are divided. I think it is high time we all pray and have MPs or a parliament that really represents the needs of the citizens, not needs of individuals or political parties.
Thank you, Apollo. And maybe Honourable, we have a new, or I don't know if it qualifies to be new, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Honourable Mao, who is or appears to be very passionate in having a more clear system, and probably also that includes the review of the constitution, but also it talks of the transition within the context of the opposition, which is looking forward to have a constitutional and electoral reviews. To what extent do you see these as success?
I don't want to be a judge prematurely, but Honourable Mao himself said before he was appointed, he seems to know the system that he's working for, that he has gotten to work for. He says the president is the kind of person who will, I don't remember his exact words, but he will tell you, this is, I've given you the responsibility to do this, and you're supposed to find yourself at point A. Then he ties a rope on your neck and pulls you to the opposite direction.
He's the wheelbarrow.
Yes.
Analogy.
Yes. So I don't know how he's going to attain that, but given that he doesn't have the absolute power, when it becomes so difficult, when it becomes so hot for the powers that be, I'm sure Mao will be relieved of his duties not too long from now, unless there's something else that we've not seen. But if he's being honest and he pushes it through the way he's talking about it, he may not end this term. But also, if we give it a benefit of doubt, he could let him be seen to do what he says he wants to do. Yeah, because he has the platform of parliament, he has the platform of cabinet, although the decisions in cabinet cannot be publicized, and it is about democracy. There is that rule of collective responsibility. Yes. It might curtail him a bit, but in parliament he can speak out. He can speak out, he can address the nation as a minister. You know, it is only now in this government that I find ministers not wielding a lot of power. I was a child during Obote 1, Obote 2. And there was this one minister from our place. He was called Mr. Kwakol. He was just, first of all, a member of parliament, and he was a friend to my dad. And when he would come, everybody will know that there's a member of parliament around. There's a minister in the area. He has come to the district, and they would make decisions, and you see implementation. You'd see them instructing certain things to be done, and you see civil servants coming to do them. But today, the ministers of today are ministers by name. They have the offices, they have the facilitation, but they have no authority.
Honourable, it is simple. There are very many centers of power.
So they have no authority in them as ministers. That's why you find, when you go to a ministry, you'll find a PS is more powerful than a minister. And yet there is nothing that a PS should do before the political head has either sanctioned, authorized, or somehow given a green light. But you'll go to a ministry and find the minister is on their own. They don't even know what is happening, what the PS is doing. Why? Because the minister is there, but the PS has even more access to the president, apart from cabinet meetings, than the minister.
Yes.
And he has a say to the president compared to the minister. So you'll find that it is very difficult for ministers. But I also think that they have done that out of fear. And, you know, you can stand tall if there are no skeletons in your cupboard. Most of the ministers have skeletons in their cupboard. So they cannot stand to say the difficult things.
Yeah.
They have to watch out and say,
Lest
somebody
it is pulled
might,
out.
lest the skeleton jumps out
Yes,
of the
yes,
cupboard.
yes, yes.
So if you keep yourself clear, you keep yourself clean and focused, you have no fears. You can do what you believe that you can do, and you can actually achieve. Everybody will see that you have been sabotaged when you are sabotaged, but you can have the impetus to do it the way you believe. But only make sure there are no skeletons in the cupboard. So as for Honourable Mao, I pray for him, but he knows exactly what he has gotten into. And I'm sure when it gets to a certain point and it becomes uncomfortable, he might be told to step aside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So probably, Honourable, also just needed to benefit from your experience. What sort of burden do opposition-leaning members of parliament or the affiliates bear on top of already misconstrued roles and roles of a member of parliament? Is there an additional, or is just the same burden that they bear?
No, they bear an exceptional kind of burden, because whatever is deficient in the country, Ugandans expect them to fix it. But they do not understand where their powers end, where their capability ends, and what is at their disposal to be able to fix whatever they want them to fix. And so it is very, very disheartening, right from the individual level up to whatever level of leadership of opposition, because the expectation of the public vis-a-vis the capability and the capacity that they have are not they don't match. They are not understandable. They are not understood. And so increasingly, once government is short in delivering services to the public looks to opposition. They'll say, you should help us out on this. But they don't know how far opposition can go. They don't know what they can't do and what they can do. And also the fact that the public is as kind of laid back. The strength of opposition would have been from the public. The strength of opposition would have been from the public. If the public would understand them and appreciate the circumstances under which opposition works, they would have the impetus to even do more. But when they try to do whatever they try to do with the limited resources that they have, under the circumstances, the public does not understand. They still expect more. They expect more. So they carry a big burden. It boils down on you relax. You can also sit back and say, okay, I'll also you hear many people say, my children, I have to look after my children, I have to provide for my children. So it boils down to that. You say, so who am I to die for these people? Who am I to suffer for these people? Because the people you are trying to suffer for actually don't appreciate, they don't even understand it. Yeah. So it discourages. It takes I don't know what kind of heart for you to keep at it, with or without appreciation, because you know that at the end of the day, it will work for the good of everybody and for the generations to come.
Thank you, Honourable. And Apollo, maybe just as a way forward, in terms of the role the opposition play within our democratic setting, I don't know what would be your parting shot in this sense, especially with the focus on the opposition in our current setting. Yeah.
Yes, I think the opposition must understand their mandate and stick to that mandate, because like Honourable here was saying, even now the population has been laid aback. They think they have been betrayed. not only by those who are in government, but even those in opposition. I can tell you, we are, it is now coming to 2 years, close to 2 years after elections, but I'm telling you, even if you go to those constituencies where the opposition were elected, will tell you they were actually, they have been let down by the very people who came as liberators. So it will take an effort. One, to sensitize the population to understand why they would be going to vote for so and so. Because in 2021, actually we witnessed a different scenario where there are reasons for that. Maybe people were wanted to send a message to someone, but people were voting. They didn't have. Some people voted for no reason. They said, "Wosanga, you know,
As long as it is
as
not-
long as it is opposition."
Yes.
I think that is very, very not only bad for the country, but also for the people who are in the opposition today. Because if you were voted in that way, then the expectations in the people are very, very very big. They have bigger expectations in you. Actually, they didn't know you. Now they sent you to represent them, and they have these big expectations. Now that is a problem. At least if I know that Honourable Angelina Osege served, and we know how she chaired this committee, it is easier at least to know that I expect this and this from her.
But Apollo, how do you respond to the concerns that have been raised that when you are faced with a very bureaucratic state or government that is very adamant in terms of its conduct, in terms of how it comes in place, do you start considering the underlying factors, or you just focus? Sometimes these other things don't matter, and the bigger goal is what matters. In terms of so there are concerns that when you're looking at quality, the current, I think the section of the opposition are concerned that we are faced with what they call a dictator, and the government which is very, very
an authoritarian government.
And so how to get it out of power? Sometimes you cease to focus into this one is like this. You just focus so long as you garner a mass that is sufficient to overthrow.
Yeah, that is a sense of I don't want to use the word hopelessness, but it is fatigue. When fatigue sets in, when it sets in, then it is natural. A person will do anything. But then the formula changes. You never know whether it will work or it will not work. You're not so sure whether it will work or it will not work. So I think we need now to go back to the drawing board. Build political parties that have a set or sets of beliefs and values. A person should subscribe to a certain organization knowing that this stands for this, but not joining a political party because he or she knows that it is the only card to get into office. We saw it in 2021. That is why I said it is dangerous now. So I think we'll support Honourable and her group if they can help us build that a party that can
country before self.
Yes, country before self. That's what we need.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Apollo, and maybe also Honourable as a parting shot and the way forward. Would also want to hear from you within the context of the opposition, what will be the best way forward, and how best can the opposition get within the existing system?
First of all, I think opposition needs to put their ears on the ground. Not to be seen to be negative, but to give opportunity to dialogue, but also open and keeping their backyard set just in case there are some tricks that are played on them. They should be alert at all times, not to be duped, not to be lured into a situation that will end up exposing them and making them seem like they are either not serious, or they are not necessary, or they're inconsequential. They should also be seen to, they should raise the bar in terms of their legislation, especially in Parliament. The quality of their legislation must be seen to be better. They should focus so much on research, that is for Parliament, so that when they present, sometimes what I notice is that if you are going to present an argument in Parliament that is well researched and well balanced, it becomes difficult even for government to oppose it. They may make it die at some stage, but the world will have seen that you presented a reasonable, objective, and a thorough kind of argument. And with time, they will try to downplay it, they will try to paint it, all sorts of things, but they cannot completely erase it once you have done a thorough job. I also think that they should keep their options open. They should try all means, but avoid getting into the trap of selfish desires. If they're going to play to that in them, they should guard against it. I mean, look at Mandela. Mandela, if for no other reason, having stayed in prison for 27 years, Mandela had the right to insist on the helm of South African government for at least 10 years. But he didn't. What did it take? Self-determination.
Yeah.
The values that he held. He knew why he was in prison for 27 years. It was not about him, but it was about the common South African. If we can get to that point, then we can be able to withstand anything and achieve what is a public good. So it takes self-determination. It takes you being comfortable in your own skin. It doesn't matter what promises you are being made. It doesn't matter what is whatever hung before you or whatever is presented to you. You know that in spite of all this, this is what I want, and I'll go for it despite denials, despite insults, despite difficult circumstances. Yeah, so focus, determination, and holding on to the values that they espouse.
Thank you so much, Honourable, and we do appreciate really for those comments. What I take home is the theme of country, putting country before myself or any other thing. And we've come to the end of this show. Our viewers, we want to thank you so much for keeping with us up to this time, and also we want to thank you for having journeyed with us since the start of the year, and even as we come towards the end of the year, we do recognize and appreciate for your time. I want to thank my panelists here for their commitment, but also their continued support to this specific program, and always accepting to be part of the show. To you, our viewers, we want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you so much and see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.